Welcome back, colleagues. Manana Sidulis. Good morning, everyone. Iminatran Taishatina Legislature in Guahan is back from recess. Senator Frank Blas, you are recognized. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, notwithstanding, I go back to motions, please.
There's a motion notwithstanding the rules to return to motions. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Minority Leader, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the objections of the Governor, I move to the body to reconsider the actions on the Governor's actions on Bill 351-37 COR, which is an act to amend subsection 7.10A of Article 1, Chapter 7, Title 9, Guam Code Annotated, relative to exemptions from criminal liability due to juvenile status, and to amend subsection 5106 of Chapter 5, Title 19, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the jurisdiction of the Superior Court of Guam. And I would like to be able.
Yeah, you're welcome to discuss that motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On that motion, I move the reconsideration of the override of the veto Bill 351-37 COR to the third reading, and I'd like to be able to speak to it.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Bill 351-37 COR was a legislation that was written as a result of, and it's not legislation that would provide a law just in case something happens. Unfortunately, this is one of those bills where, as a result of something happening, as a result of an unfortunate incident, there was a gap that was found in the law that basically it restricted, if not made it, for lack of a better term, impossible to prosecute or to go against an individual who committed this heinous crime. And let me explain to you. What the legislation will provide is that if an individual commits an act of criminal sexual conduct or murder while they're anywhere between ages of 14 to 16, but then is not caught, crime is not learned of and is not investigated, and the individual is not caught until he is way beyond the adult years. This piece of legislation would allow the courts its discretion, not mandatory, its discretion to be able to proceed to prosecute that individual for the crime that he committed as a minor but is now an adult. This in no way says that it shall be done. This gives the courts the discretion. This happened as a result, and again, as I stated earlier, this legislation is not something that just in case it happens, because it did happen. In an unfortunate incident, an individual perpetrator committed a heinous criminal sexual conduct act against a minor known to him and much younger than him. And it wasn't until years later that when the individual who is now an adult, the minor finally talked of the incident, had to regurgitate, had to tell people of what had happened to him. And when the judicial system, when law enforcement and the judicial system tried to bring justice, the individual had admitted to it. But when the judicial system tried to move forward in the prosecution, a gap in our law prohibited them from doing it. And so what this legislation would provide is that opportunity for the system to use in its discretion the ability to be able to prosecute this individual. You know, I find it very interesting that in the governor's veto message, it seems to have forgotten the key factor here, that this was going to be a law that when the individual is an adult. This is not something that says, well, the individual is a minor. It says when the individual is an adult and they are caught, but it was for offenses that they were committed when they were between the ages of 14 and 16, that this process can be utilized. It also diminishes the fact that even if the provision exists in law, it is still up to the judiciary, it's still up to the courts to decide as to whether or not to exercise it. It's not mandatory. It provides a sense of justice where justice was missing, where justice was blind. And I was kind of disappointed and almost in shock that it would be vetoed. Had they taken the time to read the legislation, had they taken the time to read the committee report, had they taken the time to see what led to this, I would really hate to bring this veto message, if you will, to the victims of this type of crime that was committed against them, to show them what the governor had to say. But I can't blame the governor here, and I'm not going to. I think that what had happened is in her decision to veto this message, she received faulty advice. She received advice from individuals who she trusted, she should have trusted, to be able to look into the law, into the bill, to come up with a decision. Because this goes against the very fabric of what she has promised to the people of Guam in wanting to make sure that our island is safe. How do you tell that to the victims of these crimes? Because there are victims of these crimes. You know, unfortunately, if this bill becomes law, it's not retrospective. It cannot help what had happened to these victims. It cannot help them to find justice, to receive justice as we know it. But what I find solace in is that while they recognize it does nothing for their case, they appreciate that because of what had happened to them and because of this bill, an incident like this will not happen to others. Because mind you, there will be others. So I'm asking my colleagues' support in overriding this veto. Again, this does not say that it is mandatory. It provides that discretion that the courts currently do not have. What's the harm in that? As a matter of fact, it ensures that from henceforth, an individual who committed a crime, didn't get caught, and thought that they're scot-free, he's going to have to sleep with one eye open because a law exists now that can charge him. I don't want this. As a matter of fact, I was just going to say this. Not vetoing or not overriding this veto and walking away if this isn't done and an incident like this happens again. That's blood on your hands when you could have done something. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Situs Masi, Minority Leader Senator Frank Blas. On the bill, on the motion to override, Senator Brown, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I certainly also rise with Senator Blas to support the override of the veto on this bill. I, too, was disappointed to hear over the weekend that the governor had vetoed this bill, and certainly, if you recall, Madam Speaker, when we debated this bill not just too long ago, a few weeks ago, we discussed the importance of wanting to ensure justice in our community. Obviously, this is a very delicate issue. It's how do we address these type of crimes that happen in our community, and the sad reality, whether we want to talk about it or not, the underbelly of child abuse on Guam is prevalent, a lot more than we would like to think. We have innocent children that are harmed and scarred for life because someone else decided to abuse them. And these children are vulnerable. They're unable to protect themselves. In most cases, they're young. They don't even know what's going on or what's being done to them. But right now, we recognize that in the particular case that Senator Blas had referenced, we had a young child in this community that was violated by another youthful individual, but one that was a teenager that harmed this child, that sexually abused this child. Now, some can say, oh, you know, it's just experimenting. Children are trying to define themselves and learn about their sexuality, and it's totally innocent. Some of these cases, you cannot look at these type of crimes and say they're innocent, or simply young people experimenting, getting to know their sexuality and each other. Or you can say, oh, this is a young couple, you know, they're 14 and 15 years old, 16 years old, and, you know, their girlfriend, boyfriend. We discussed the reality, Madam Speaker, that in almost all cases, at least the studies have shown, that individuals that have these type of tendencies to abuse children, who find some sort of sexual gratification in having sex with children, or looking at pornography of children, that these type of conditions are almost incurable. That there's nothing you can do to treat these individuals to make them not be aroused by the thought of abusing or sexually abusing a child. That's sad. I mean, I don't understand the wiring of anyone's brain that makes that possible. Certainly anyone here who is a parent, who's a father, who's a mother, who's a grandparent or great-grandparent would never want this type of harm to ever come to their children. And I grieve for the mother. I grieve for the father that's had to, and the family of this particular child that our good Senator Blas was talking about. Because under existing laws, that poor child will not see justice. Even though the mother went to the Guam Police Department and reported this case, knew who the offender was that harmed her child, thinking that justice will be there so that this child can grow up and know and understand that they didn't do anything wrong, that this violence was perpetrated upon them and the offender suffered the consequences, that the offender went through the legal system and the offender served the time for harming this child. Well, that's not the case. Can you imagine being that mother in that situation? Now, the governor mentions in her message that, oh, we got to give people the time to, you know, learn and grow, and that they're still young, they can change their ways. Well, in those cases, we allow the judge to make that determination. But in these cases where you're looking at someone who's only beginning the process of this type of lifestyle, that this is already ingrained in them, that no matter how old they get, they will continue to carry these tendencies of abuse. And then what are we doing? Leaving the opportunity for them to continue to prey on other children? Isn't that the trend? Aren't these sometimes the kind of individuals that we see that want to work with children, that end up working with children? In the last few years, how many have we had in our educational system? Where we feel we should be able to trust when we send our children to school that they're in a safe environment. We teach them that they're in a safe environment, that they're around responsible adults. That has not been the case. And while this is a difficult issue, and it is a difficult issue, we need to determine the standards of this community that this behavior is unacceptable. Especially when these children are harmed and harmed for life. Because you can't wipe this away and make it go away. You can't shower it away and make it go away. I've always felt a need that there has to be justice at the end of the day, that if a crime has been committed, that there should be consequence. So I ask, Madam Speaker, that our colleagues really think about this. Because issues like this, we shouldn't be looking at what line of politics we are and politics we're playing. We need to make responsible decisions and standards out there in our community, because this could be your child. This could be your grandchild. This could be your niece or nephew out there. And then what do you tell them? Oh, we have no recourse? That this individual walks free that has abused a child or other children, and they walk free in this community? Some of them scoff at the rest of us, go, oh, hey, I got away with it, yeah. Till they abuse the next child out there. I wish we could lock them away and throw away the key. Because these type of offenses to me are just absolutely, Madam Speaker, unacceptable. There's no mercy in my mind or soul for individuals that do these things to harm the innocent and the vulnerable out there, that have no ability to protect themselves. And if we're responsible leaders, and we believe that that's indeed the case, so I certainly do, then there needs to be consequence in our law. That's up to us to make those decisions for this community. We've been given that opportunity. I'd hate to see it wasted. And I'd hate to see that there'll be more children out there that will not find justice if we do not override the governor's veto on this bill. So with that, Madam Speaker, I stand in support of the override. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Sidus Masi, Senator Brown. On that motion for override, is there any other senator who'd like to be recognized? Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I supported this bill and want to introduce it myself, especially after hearing the pleas of the mother of the victim involved. However, in the veto message by the governor, it was argued that it was unconstitutional. Specifically, the governor says the bill violates the Supreme Court decision in Graham v. Florida. Justice Kennedy said in Graham v. Florida that the Constitution prohibits the imposition of a life without parole sentence on a juvenile offender who did not commit homicide. The judgment of the First District Court of Appeal of Florida is reversed, and the case is remanded for further proceedings not inconsistent with this opinion. We all want justice. But if this is unconstitutional, then we would be offering false hope, and that would be worse. And so I'm trying to keep an open mind here, and I would like to ask the author, can he address that case specifically and whether this would violate that precedent?
Would the author yield to
Yes,
the
I would.
question?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the question. And I think that's where some of the confusion with the governor lies. This is not about a 14 and 16-year-old, at 14 and 16-year-old. This is about an individual who, in this case, is 22 years old already. and committed the crime when he was 14, between 14 and 16. So the imposition of the sentence is not on a 16-year-old. It's on a 22-year-old that committed the crime when they were 16. Okay? There's where I think some of the confusion with the governor had in this. It further, and the governor recognizes it. It further provides the courts the discretion. It does not say it's mandatory that it provides it or that it exercises this. It's a discretionary means to be able to deal with the justice, to be able to prosecute. So, again, I go back. This is not about the 14 or 16-year-old at 14 or 16-year-old. This is about the 22 to 23-year-old, 30-year-old, the 40-year-old who committed the crime when they were that age. Okay. So, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for your perspective. Also, would it be possible for our own legal counsel to opine on this issue? If this is unconstitutional or not? Could we take a moment's recess to ask the legal counsel?
We can take a moment's recess. 1 minute recess. we're back from recess. Senator Parkinson, you had the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, before I went off and had my conversation with the legal counsel, I really wrestled with this question about the constitutionality of it. And thinking to myself that if the victim wasn't just some random person, but if the victim was me, if I'm putting myself in the feet of the victim, what really brings justice? And I asked myself, if I was the parent of a victim and I had to follow this case all the way to the Guam Supreme Court, their arguments, or even Circuit Court of the Supreme Court, only to lose because it turned out that this law was unconstitutional, how would I feel? And I think in that position, I would still want the bill to pass. Still fight the good fight. If the courts tell me that they're going to protect the predators, then I say the courts are wrong. And that we should do everything in our power to protect people, our children. Damn what the Supreme Court says. If they protect predators too, they're illegitimate. However, when I spoke to legal counsel, she pointed out a problem I'd never even considered. When this bill was proposed, it was proposed in response to a story of a 14-year-old being a predator to a child. And then many years later, when this person is in their early 20s, this crime is found out and nothing can be done to provide justice for this person. And so this law is necessary so that we could try this person. And even if that's unconstitutional, let's get that out into light. Let's get it out into a court and let the courts strike it down. However, in my discussions with legal counsel told me that this does nothing for the statute of limitations. So this case that we are trying to solve for in the future, where somebody predated on somebody when they're 14 years old and we discover it when they're 20, this bill does not bring justice to them because the statute of limitations would have passed. It does not solve the problem at hand. And so,
Point of information.
Point of information. Please state your point of information.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First-degree criminal sexual conduct and homicide does not have a statute of limitations. Thank you very much.
Please proceed, Senator Parkinson.
these are not my words, sir. These are the words of our legal counsel who said that statute of limitations does not get adjusted in cases like this, if this law was to be overridden and made into the books. And so I was willing to roll the dice on unconstitutionality to put protections in place. But if it's unconstitutional, if it's potentially unconstitutional, and it doesn't even solve the problem, I'm having trouble getting behind that. But I'm still erring on the side of keeping an open mind and putting the boots to these monsters in our community. So if some of our more loyally senators would please opine their expertise, particularly Speaker Terlahi and Senator Fisher. I know you both have legal backgrounds in that way. I would love to hear your views on this discussion because I really don't know what the right answer is. I was willing to roll the dice that the Supreme Court we might run afoul of the Supreme Court. But if this does not provide the justice to future victims like the mother and their child, maybe this bill needs to go back to the drawing board. I absolutely support the intent of this bill. I wish I could have introduced it myself. But it's important that we pay attention to details, that we don't skip over these important letters of law, because the mistakes we make here have consequences for our people down the line if we are sloppy. So if this bill might not even solve the problem we were trying to solve in the first place, I would really like my colleagues to find a way to address these concerns I have, and please convince me otherwise, because I would love nothing more than to come down hard on these people. But I'd also like what we do to be effective. So with that, Madam Speaker, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Seduce Masi, Senator Parkinson, on the motion for override. Is there any other senator who'd like to be recognized? Senator San Nicolas, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I supported this bill. We sent it down to the governor. I'm listening to the debate that's going on here, and I think to myself, am I going to be able to sleep at night? But more than that, would this bill aid in holding up the dignity of those who were wrong? There's questions about constitutionality in here. I would say, let's pass this and throw it up against the wall and let's see if it sticks. And get all those people and let's bring them to justice who have wronged somebody in one way or another. I'm not a politician. Not. And sometimes, I bring myself here and I was like, man, all these decisions you have to make and how weighty these decisions are. And I ask myself, would Dad approve of this? Would the Lord approve of this? Would I be able to sleep at night? And all of those questions, they point to yes. If this bill passes an override, will I be able to sleep at night, knowing that we're going to be bringing people to justice and upholding the dignity of those who were wrong? I say yes. Would this override make the Lord happy? I say yes. Would this override make my dad happy? I'd say yes. Pass all the litmus tests that I've been using in here. I'm not a party guy. I vote either way. I vote because I try to have a clean conscience. I vote because it's going to help the people. I vote because I'll be able to sleep at night. And so I support the override. Wherever out there that you're going to have to, I support this override, and let's just, I guess, do the right thing. And let the courts figure it out if this is constitutional or not. That's what they're there for. I've always wanted to do something like we did in Singapore. They do in Singapore with the caning. Said, hey, let's try to figure something out. Put it out there. Let's see if it's deemed constitutional or not. But we're not here nor there. But I think this bill has come a long way, and I think there's good in this bill. And I think it'd be sad in this situation not to. It upholds the dignity of those who are wrong. You'll be able to sleep at night. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Seduce Masi, Senator San Nicolas. On the motion for override, is there any other senator who would like to be recognized?
Speaker Therese, you are recognized. Good morning. Manana Sizos.
Manana Sizus and Sizus Masi, and good morning to all my colleagues and to the people of Guam. So, the facts as stated by the author are that because of late reporting by the victim, a child who did not have the ability to report until later, till they grew older, a child who was a victim of sexual offense. They reported after the offender had turned 18. Because of that, there is no justice at all for this child, for this crime. None under our laws can be achieved. So the bill is trying to amend the law so that hopefully there is a way for some justice to be achieved in these types of situations. This bill allows the juvenile court to have jurisdiction. It amends the part of the statutes dealing with juvenile court jurisdiction and allows them to have jurisdiction when no other court right now has jurisdiction. And without court jurisdiction, these offenders remain untreated as adults. Without rehabilitation, they will reoffend according to science, according to the data that we have. And this is our effort to prevent further offense for any other child and to achieve justice for those who have already been offended, been harmed. The individual sentences that the governor is concerned about, she's concerned about this bill because it might allow the courts to impose lifetime sentences for someone who committed rape while he was under the age of 18. Well, that's not us. We are not sentencing. We are leaving it to the courts to sentence, and nothing in this bill mandates a court to do anything. It allows them the ability to review the cases individually, as they always do, to impose and review the sentences for criminal sexual conduct offense. This bill, contrary to some of the language in the governor's veto message, this bill does not impact at all the current statutes regarding murder. It makes no amendments to those statutes. It only amends juvenile court jurisdiction when there is a criminal sexual conduct offense occurred prior to the age of 18 and no justice has been brought. It says it would authorize the harshest available sentences for young teenagers, including life sentences without parole. Those are available to the courts, but the courts must consider all the factors in their sentencing. It's not mandatory for criminal sexual conduct. The sentencing court will determine that. And then it says in the governor's veto message that this would authorize mandatory life sentence without parole for aggravated murder. No, this bill does not do that. The current law already does that. And that has been deemed constitutional by the Supreme Court of the United States. So again, we are faced with hard choices because we're talking about juveniles who are committing crimes because there is something majorly wrong with our systems that we must improve. It's a huge challenge to us, all of us going forward. This is not the cure. This will simply take care on a case-by-case basis of bringing these people into the court system where it is their only hope, our only hope, of them being rehabilitated, prohibited from reoffending. And yes, that is the goal, and yes, I support that, and I support the override. And I thank my colleague for making the motion to do that, and the colleagues who support this. Jesus Masi.
You're welcome, Speaker Therese. Anyone else wishing to speak on the override? If not, Senator Joseph Augustine, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, after reviewing and listening to my colleagues, after reviewing the override letter, never mind about murder because the law allows that already to exist. But we're talking about certain crimes. In general, I think it was very specific. It's criminal sexual conduct. Being a father, a grandfather, and a great-grandfather, that many of you are not. I take offense if a crime was ever committed to any of my granddaughters or great-granddaughter. And if the violator was 14 at the time, and then it was later determined that he was an adult, when they finally found out that he's the violator, they determined who the violator was, I'd like to see the individual go to jail. I have no reservations on that, because they finally caught the individual. Now, the question I would only pose, the statute of limitations reduces the opportunity for prosecution. That's what worries me. Sure, court, you can decide. Statute of limitation, I think, for criminal sexual conduct, I think it's 5 years or something like that. If you were 14, you turned 19, they didn't find out until you were 20, 21, 22, or beyond, it wouldn't apply. That's my belief on this bill. And it was said that maybe the author can rewrite this so we can capture the individuals that have caused that. But, you know, I'm okay. I'm okay the way the bill's written. I can live with this.
Point of information. Madam Speaker, point of information.
Please say your point of information, Senator Blas.
Thank you. Title 8, Chapter 10, Section 10.10. No limit on murder prosecutions. A prosecution for murder may be commenced at any time. Section 10.17. No limitation on crimes of first or second degree criminal sexual conduct. If the offense is in violation of 25.15 or 2520 of Chapter 25, Title 9 GCA, the prosecution of the offense may be commenced at any time. So, to be able to answer that concern, and it's a valid concern, but there are no statutes of limitation. I just wanted to bring that up.
Susan Massey, for your point of order, point of information, Senator Sinogstein.
Thank you,
have
Madam
the floor.
Speaker, and I thank my colleague for stating that. I wish it was stated earlier in the beginning. I didn't hear that earlier because I am listed as a co-sponsor to the author of the bill. Being that there's not even a statute of limitation, then game on. Like I stated earlier, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, and I'm a great-grandfather. I have quite a lot of granddaughters, great-granddaughters. I hate to know that there was a violation to any of my kids, just like any of my nieces or any of the family and friends' kids, and they weren't brought to justice. That's what concerns me. As a former police officer, you're going down. With that, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Susan Massey, Senator Sinogstein. On the motion for override, is there any other senator who would like to be recognized? Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Madam Speaker, and good morning to the people of Guam and to my colleagues. I rise in support of the override attempt, and I echo the sentiments of the main sponsor of the bill who wondered out loud and said that the governor got bad advice. I absolutely agree. I think the governor's been getting a lot of bad advice lately, whether it's about methamphetamine coming into the port or whether she has the authority to build a new hospital in Manila without anybody's input, or whether it's this bill, which if you read the committee report and you listen to the debate and discussion on the floor and you kind of match that up with the governor's veto message, I had to scratch my head and wonder where this reasoning was coming from. Frankly, it was flimsy, and I commend the author, and I pray that the body passes this message because, as we all know, our children are under siege. Our children are under siege, whether it's by perverts, rapists, pedophiles, drug dealers. They're under siege, so anything we can do to protect our kids, protehi famaguanta, I will rise and stand in support of. And so I encourage my colleagues also to override this veto and do what's right by our kids. Sijos Masi, Madam Speaker.
Susan Massey. Is there any other senator who would like to be recognized? If not, then Minority Leader, Senator Blas, you may close on the bill, on the motion.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank my colleagues for the discourse, the discussions that have occurred in this deliberation. And I appreciate some of the concerns that were brought up, and I would only hope that I was able to allay them. But first off, this bill is not about a statute of limitation. But this bill provides us the opportunity and the discretion for the courts to be able to provide prosecution in an area, in a gap that currently exists that is basically, for lack of a better term, a no man's land. To recap as to what had occurred, you have a 22-year-old who was charged for, or a minor, first off, who was violated, was sexually violated, but when by another minor, older than the person, but a minor as such. Years later, this minor now has the courage to be able to tell somebody what had happened to them. And when it is brought to law enforcement, there was obviously a crime that was committed. So they appropriately arrested the individual. But when they looked at the case, when it came to into the prosecution of it, what they learned is that now the individual who was an adult who committed the crime as a minor, there was a jurisdictional issue as to whether or not, which court had the case. You could not bring that 22-year-old back to the family court and he's already too old while he's an adult, it was committed basically under that time. So what this provides, this bill then would provide is the opportunity to be able to prosecute the case. If the individual who committed the crime as a minor is now an adult and is found and is arrested at that time as an adult, not as a minor. If he committed the crime as a minor and he's found as a minor, he will be charged accordingly as a minor in family court. This closes that gap, that loophole that exists. But in the case of statutes of limitations, like I said, what this bill provides is that discretion for crimes that don't have statutes of limitations. Okay? I mentioned Section 10.10 on homicides, murders. No statute there, no statute of limitation there. No statute of limitation on crimes of first or second degree criminal sexual conduct. But then, most importantly, one of the things, Section 10.16, no limitation on crimes committed against victims under the age of majority. If the offense is a violation of Chapter 25 of Title IX Guam Code annotated and the victim was under the age of majority or the victim's mental comprehension capacity was below the age of adolescence at the time of the offense was committed, a prosecution of the offense may be commenced at any time. So the whole concern about statute of limitations has been allayed. Again, all this bill provides is the discretion for the courts. It does not mandatorily, it does not say they shall do it, it gives them that discretion. With regard to the sentencing, it gives them that discretion. It doesn't address the sentencing. And even at that, the sentencing is not of a minor. The sentencing here is of an adult who committed the offense as a minor. So, constitutionally, you're sentencing an adult. There's nothing unconstitutional about that, or all of our laws are basically stricken. Again, that's all this bill purports to do, nothing more. Please, as was stated earlier by several of my colleagues, none of us want to be put in a position where something happens to our loved ones or somebody that we know. And we're finding that because of our statutes, there's nothing that can be done. Mind you, colleagues, in this body, there is something that could be done to those statutes. And that's what we're doing here. Because I pray that if we do not override this veto, and something does happen, that you go to sleep that night saying, I was part of that body that could have done something, but I didn't. You live with that, because I'm not. So I'm again imploring, I'm asking, I'm begging my colleagues, let's send a message, let's send the right message. Let's tell this child, these children actually. Today we only talked about one case. There are actually a couple others. And different offenders. So this is not a once-in-a-lifetime Halley's Comet type event. This is actually occurring. Before it occurs again, let's strengthen our statutes, strengthen our laws, to ensure that the perpetrator gets the proper punishment and the victim sees that justice does prevail. So I'm asking my colleagues for their vote on this override. And with that, Madam Speaker, I'd like to move for the override of this veto for voting.
On that motion to place the veto bill number 351-37 COR into the voting file, notwithstanding the objections of Imagahagan Guahan, are there any objections? Seeing no, there's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand to place into the voting file. Motion carries. We're still under motions. Is there any other motion? Senator Fisher, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I just wanted, if the body will indulge me in this, I think we are all aware, I hope we are, that President James Earl Carter, the 39th President of the United States, passed away at the age of 100, I think early this morning, Guam time. President Carter spent his entire life in public service. He was a naval officer. He was a Nobel Peace Prize winner. He was famously a peanut farmer in the state of Georgia. He lived a life of service as a naval officer, as a governor, later president, and I think President Carter would most like to be remembered as a man of peace. President Carter lived a complete and full life in an exercise of Christian charity. President Carter, where he saw that someone was thirsty, he gave them to drink. President Carter, when he saw that someone was hungry, gave them to eat. President Carter, where he saw illness throughout the world, brought comfort, and where he could, cure. President Carter, where he saw people imprisoned, actually or through addiction to substances or mental illness of any sort, where he saw people imprisoned, he visited them. He was an extraordinary individual. I would just close by asking the body to remember this blessed man, this great president, this great American. Thank you, ma'am. If the body would, perhaps we could all join in a moment of silence for our president.
Is there any objection to a moment of silence for the late president? If not, please rise. Sidus Masi.
Thank you, ma'am. Nothing further.
Sidus Masi, Senator Fisher. On motions, Senator Parkinson, you're recognized under motions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the actions of the body regarding the nomination of Dr. Berg.
Would you like to discuss that motion?
No, I'd like to, I'll yield my discussion.
All right. On the motion, is there anyone who'd like to discuss the motion?
On the motion to reconsider the actions of the body on the nomination of Dr. Berg, any discussion? Speaker Terlahi, you are recognized.
Sidus Masi, and I have no objection to the motion for reconsideration of the nominee. However, I really wanted to make sure that we are very crystal clear as to what has actually transpired because there was a very huge misreporting or misunderstanding in the media of what actually transpired. And I want to thank Director Ariola at the Department of Public Health and Social Services, which oversees the Health Professional Licensing Office, or HPLO, and made it very clear to the media that a letter quoted urging the legislature to confirm the nomination was not written by the Guam Board of Medical Examiners or by the Department of Public Health and Social Services, and may have been written by Dr. Berg himself, according to the newspaper article in the Guampedia. Ariola said she was not aware of the letter until late that Wednesday afternoon, and the letter references the GBME and asserts, among other things, that the failure to reconfirm Berg has created a significant and immediate crisis, jeopardizing the stability and functionality of this critical body. And she pointed out that the Guam Board of Medical Examiners had on that day 4 confirmed members: Dr. Jolene Uggan, Dr. Louis Cruz, Dr. Kawasi Niyami, Dr. Alexander Willard, that fulfill a quorum and can still conduct official functions. And so I would just ask this board and all boards on Guam that they not succumb to politics or threats of crisis or jeopardizing stability of our healthcare systems when they have in their power the ability to avert any crisis, to do what they were put on these boards to do, which is to review the files, to approve or disapprove of those who come in, to use their judgment and their own processes, to educate themselves and make sure they understand the process. That's what we voted them on these boards to do. And we trust that they are going to individually take this responsibility. And I want to thank the HPLO office for doing hard work, trying to ensure that our boards, where they used to run in crisis mode years ago, do not do that anymore. They have been, for the most part, consistent. Some of them still need to do some more work, but they've been consistent in having their meetings. We need to assist them in ensuring that the legal help that they are supposed to receive, that they receive it, and that they are adequately resourced. And we have made our efforts to do this. But that is not creating a crisis today. It is really the threats in this one letter that no doctors will be approved on Guam unless one nominee is passed. And I say we, as a legislature, cannot listen to that type of nonsense. We will vote or reconsider nominations on their merits, but I'm asking again that the boards who have already been confirmed, that each member of those boards also act with the responsibility that they have been empowered to act, to ensure that physicians waiting to be confirmed, can be licensed on Guam. That clinics waiting for doctors to be licensed on Guam will not be stalled by some threats of any individual.
Thank you very much, Speaker Terlahi. On the reconsideration of adding reconsideration of the vote on Dr. Berg's nomination, discussion, Senator Dueñas, you are recognized.
Sidus Masi, Madam Chair. And I too did read the letter from Public Health, and I'm glad they wrote it. But I also want to make sure, Madam Speaker, that we point out that in the letter that was issued by Public Health, they clearly stated they were not sure why Dr. Berg was removed from the voting file, and they were not sure what the actions of the body were predicated on. And I will tell you that no less, in fact, I just got a message from Dr. Shea once again, that, and I will read this, and yes, I can distribute it to whoever would want it. And Dr. Shea clearly states here, in fact, the letter's here, I can send it to our colleagues, that the Guam Medical Association fully supports the confirmation of Dr. Berg. And I'll forward this letter to our colleagues, if I believe it was sent to you, Madam Speaker. The other issue is Dr. Hoa Wen went on media to confirm the fact that the necessity of Dr. Berg at this time is because he is the chair. And he, as the chair, has that power to sign off on temporary licensure and other licensure. And that admittedly, and those other doctors, one who is mostly off island, will tell you that to take on that awesome responsibility, there is training involved, there is a lot of risk involved. And I don't believe there's any other doctor on there right now that would take the duty and responsibility to do that. They can dispute my comments on the floor, but I know this to be pretty much true. I also want to say that the veracity of those comments has been confirmed to me by not only Dr. Hoa Wen, but other doctors in terms of the write-up that was issued on why Dr. Berg is critical to be maintained on this board. Now, I also have this on good information. Dr. Berg would love to hand over the reins of this responsibility. The problem is, there has been no succession training at this level. And there was a meeting that didn't make quorum. And there's not another meeting, and my understanding, there was 2 doctors pending licensure in that meeting. I don't know the reason why there wasn't quorum, but there's not another meeting. Hopefully there will be quorum, I believe on January 13th. So I want to end by quoting a doctor who I listened to because at least I want to hear his advice. He's given a lot to Guam and is very vocal and is very forthright. And I've got permission to extend these comments. Dr. Hoa Wen says, please, legislature, when you do things that affect the medical community and the actions of your body have repercussions, please speak to us. At least get our perspective. And if you want to proceed and vote the way you proceed, that's why the people of Guam put you there, then proceed. But please do it with all the facts and information at your ready. If you don't like the doctor, you think the doctor's been problematic, okay, good enough. But the minimum you could do is act responsibly in ensuring that there is a succession plan to ensure that this critical job of confirming or signing off on medical licensure is something that is available at every meeting that they convene at. For that reason, I'm glad that we're considering this motion, and I urge the body to please confirm Dr. Berg and allow him to at least turn the reins over to someone else during the balance of his tenure. Madam Speaker.
Senator Dueñas. On the motion, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized? If not, sponsor may close on the motion to reconsider. If not, we will take a vote on the motion to reconsider. Is there any objection to reconsidering the nomination? There's an objection, so all in favor of reconsidering the nomination, please raise your hand. Reconsidering, we will vote later on whether to confirm him or not. This is whether we will reconsider that vote. Motion carries. That will be placed on the voting file for vote later today. We are still under motions. Is there any other motion? If not, then Majority Leader, Senator Shelton, you are recognized.
Sejus Masi, Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the House rules, I move to place the nomination of Frank Santos as member of the Port Authority Board on the agenda.
On the motion, just 1 second. There's been a motion to place the nomination of Frank Santos for the Port Authority of Guam onto our agenda. And there's been an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand to place it on the agenda. Motion fails. Majority Leader, you are recognized.
And Madam Speaker, I move to place on the agenda the nomination of Louis Baza as a member of the Port Authority Board on the agenda.
On that motion, is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor of the motion to place the nomination of Louis Baza for the Port Authority of Guam onto our agenda, please raise your hand. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion fails. We're still on motions. Is there any other motion? If not, we will proceed. There are no to legislative concurrence. There were no items under legislative concurrence, no items under second reading. We will proceed to the third reading, voting, and the voting file. Does anyone need copies of the vetoed item? If not, we will proceed. All right, colleagues, if you're ready, we will begin with the override of Bill 351. Would the clerks please read the title?
Bill number 351-37 COR, as amended by the Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture, and further amended on the floor. Introduced by Frank Blas Jr., Joanne M. Brown, Tello T. Tadagui, Jesse A. Lujan, William A. Parkinson, Dwayne T. D. Siniclas, Christopher M. Duenas, Therese M. Terlahi, Chris Barnett. An act to amend Section 7.10A of Article 1, Chapter 7, Title 9, Guam Code Annotated, relative to exemptions from criminal liability due to juvenile status, and to amend Section 5106 of Chapter 5, Title 19, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the jurisdiction of the Superior Court of Guam.
Majority Leader, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I move to excuse members not present for the vote.
There is a motion to excuse members not present for this vote, or all votes today. Is there any objection to that motion? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. All right, so the question before us is, shall Bill number 351-37 COR pass, notwithstanding the objections of Imagahagan Guahan? Roll call.
Senator Barnett. Senator Barnett, aye. Senator Blas. Senator Blas, aye. Senator Brown. Senator Brown, aye. Senator Dueñas. Senator Dueñas, aye. Senator Fisher. Senator Fisher, nay. Senator Lujan. Senator Lujan, excused. Vice Speaker Muñoz Barnes. Vice Speaker Muñoz Barnes, pass. Senator Parkinson. Senator Parkinson, nay. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, aye. Senator Kanata. Senator Kanata, pass. Senator San Augustine. Senator San Augustine, aye. Senator Siniclis. Senator Siniclis, aye. Senator Shelton. Senator Shelton, nay. Senator Taitigui. Senator Taitigui, aye. Speaker Terlahi. Speaker Terlahi, aye. Vice Speaker Muñoz Barnes. Vice Speaker Muñoz Barnes, pass. Senator Kanata. Senator Kanata, pass. Vice Speaker Munya Barnes. Vice Speaker Munya Barnes, pass, nay. Senator Kanata. Senator Kanata, pass, nay.
Vetoed bill number 351-37, COR, received 9 ayes, 5 nays, and 1 excused. The vetoed bill number 351-37, COR, failed to override. On the nomination of Nathaniel Berg to the Guam Board, Senator Taitigui, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I ask to be recused from voting. He's my doctor.
There's a motion to excuse Senator Taitigui from voting on this nomination. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that motion passes. On the nomination of Nathaniel Berg, MD, to serve on the Guam Board of Medical Examiners, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries. The nomination passes. We'll now proceed. We have exhausted the consideration of the daily file. We're now on brief extension of remarks. Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Sijoswasi, Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the rules, I'd like to motion at this time to extend the time for the brief extension of remarks. Is a little too brief to 10 minutes. Sijoswasi.
On a motion to extend from 5 to 10 minutes, a brief extension of remarks. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. On brief extension of remarks, is there any senator who would like to be recognized? Senator Nicholas, you're recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And before I start, I just wanted to say hello to Dion Roberto from DL Paris. She asked me for a selfie when I was at the airport. I know we only got 10 minutes, and this is like what I've been waiting for the last 2 years. You know, being in here, you know, it's very weighty. You know, you have a real big responsibility for to the people, and it's a burden. It's such a burden if you really, you know, think about it. It's a burden, but it's a burden worth doing because it's an honor to be here. It's an honor, and I like to, you know, first give an honor to the Almighty. Thank you for allowing me to live this wonderful life. Such a blessing. And then I also like to thank my wife for putting up with this for 2 years. She would always say, you know, when things get heated here, you know, just come home. So I lost the election, and you know, I'm not going to be coming back. And they say, hey, are you going, when you give your speech, are you going to cry? Santa doesn't do that. I'm happy with the just the honor to have served, and I just want to thank my wife for putting up with this busy schedule, and everybody knows I'm really attached to my wife. Your love is so sweet, it knocks me right off of my feet. I can't explain why your loving makes me weak. Oh, I did it. That's one of my favorite songs. I've always wanted to say that in public. I'm going to miss you all. I'm not going to lie. I got to spend some time with, Chris Barnett. I think if we weren't slinging mud or whatever, I think we would be really good friends. Senator Parkinson's a wonderful gentleman. I love working with you a lot. Senator Chris, telling me to say, hey, just keep on doing what you're doing. And we had really wonderful time with the new senator, the senator or speaker-elect. We had a lot of great times. My good friend back here, Senator Joe San Augustine, always laughing. Thank goodness they didn't catch that in the cameras a lot. Our young Senator Roy here, I tell him to follow his dreams, keep on doing what he's doing. You're still young, you've got a lot of life in you. Senator Fisher, who's opakat la sachnielo, his skin is brown. His heart is brown. Senator Tello Taidagui, I didn't want to leave without saying thank you. We kind of made up this last thing, and she was one of those senators when I first got in here. She says, Dwayne, this is a place where you gotta do right by the people. So thank you for that. And Senator Joanne Brown, sometimes we didn't see eye to eye on stuff, but I still respect her a great deal. I watched her since I was in high school. Sorry, I didn't mean to give the age away. And Senator Vice Speaker, thank you, ma'am, for also standing by me and making my dreams come true. And Senator Sabina, we've had a lot of laughs together. And I'm gonna miss, just our talks. And I still have a couple more minutes. I want to thank the people of Guam. Esta matu i tempo para bai hu dingu esti na oficina za malago zu be sangani hamzu gof maguf zu na un na izu esti sansa para bai hu set bi hamzu torus hokuka hu be na yao hu faisin si jus na po na iamzu ni gracias and bendición para todo y man mamala na tiempo. Manalud and mananaud and mangotsongu magufu pago nadia sa taigui esta nyalalan corazon pago da malago be na iamzu Dankulu na Jesus Malsi para esti na oportunidad na by who set bihamzu. Ronald Reagan always says, I have a rendezvous with destiny. I don't know what tomorrow may bring, but I want to leave the people of Guam with utmost love and respect, and God's blessing to everybody, all my friends and relatives and supporters and everybody in here, and I wish the incoming legislature all the best of luck. Let me see what else I have to say before I leave. But I want to thank the Lord for allowing me also to spend some time here. Like I said, I'm not a politician. I'm a horrible guy who argues. I never like to argue. It's just not in my nature. But I've learned a couple things here. And so maybe I'll brush up later and see whatever the Lord wants me to do and where he takes me. But I really, really, truly am going to miss you all. And One thing I learned here too is I like serving the people. I like serving the people, and I hope in my service in this last 2 years that I served you honorably, kindly, with compassion, and I'm not going to be too far. I'll still be here, and I wish everybody well and a very prosperous new year. It's Dwayne Nicholas signing out. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, everybody. God bless.
Senator Nicholas. On brief extension of remarks, is there any other senator who would like to be recognized? Senator Parkinson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When I think about what I was going to say today, I thought long and hard. Where do I come from? What do I say? Maybe I just sing the national anthem again and do a redemption song at the end. Who knows, right? And so, for a brief moment here, I actually just wanted to talk about my greatest fear. My greatest fear, and I think this is a fear I share with many people, is to die unloved after living a meaningless life. And today, I find myself filled with gratitude because of my lovely wife, my beautiful child, the friends I've made in this chamber, and the trust that people have put in me. I have gratitude that I will never know my greatest fear. Serving as your senator in the 37th Guam Legislature has been one of the great honors of my life. It is truly a privilege to serve, to wake up every day and have this incredible burden on our shoulders, but to know that if we approach every day and every problem with clear eyes and an open heart, we can't lose. To the people of Guam, I just want you to know, whether you agreed with me or disagreed with me, I did my best. I did my best all the way till the whistle blew, and I fought every step of the way. Heck, I fought before I even got inaugurated. And I will continue to keep fighting for you as long as you will let me. Serving in this chamber is not an easy task. There are a lot of strong personalities and a lot of conflict, not for the weak, not for the weak-willed, not for the weak of stomach. And I would never, in a million years, with all honesty, do this job for anybody else but the people of Guam. This is the only place, my home, that I would ever dedicate my life and burn my essence for the people. Because if I wanted to make money, there's ways to make money out there. But not just myself, but every single person in this body, every single person in this body does this job for the love of the island, even if we don't agree on how to love that island. So to my colleagues, I'd like to share an excerpt with you all from the great Teddy Roosevelt. He's my favorite president. In his speech called Citizenship in the Republic. And to my colleagues, I say this: it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that this place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. I thank all my colleagues for their time shared with me in this arena. I will always have the fondest of memories and the utmost respect for this time we shared in this fellowship. God bless you all, and let's all make better decisions next year. With that, I yield the rest of my time, Madam Speaker.
Situus Masi, Senator Parkinson. On brief extension of remarks, Vice Speaker, you asked me to be recognized. You are recognized.
Manana Sizos, Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this extension of remarks. I rise, Madam Speaker, during this final session of the 37th Guam Legislature to extend my humble appreciation to our colleagues who've served selflessly and admirably this term, and I wish them well as they begin a new chapter in life. To my fellow senior senator, my neighbor in Bago Bay, Ondunkulunasi Zeus Masi, for showing that experience is invaluable. Thank you for showing that in order to do this job, you have to be at the job. Thank you for being a staunch yet fair advocate for our rules and for staying strong in your push for transparency. No matter who is making a motion or who's pushing a measure forward. To one of my favorite sailors, my good friend from Ipen, Ondunkulunasi Zeus Masi, for so fiercely protecting our proceedings as my unofficial parliamentarian. On many occasions, the only reason we were able to move forward in an orderly manner is because you refused to allow rules and procedures to be ignored. But most of all, my good friend from Ipan, Ondunkulunasi Zeus Masi, for breaking political barriers. It is not easy being a so-called liberal Republican, just as it is not easy being a conservative Democrat. I hope that more can follow your example to push the boundaries of what a political party is. I hope more candidates will take up your mantle and make both the Democratic and Republican parties more diverse, to be bigger tents, to embrace all who subscribe for our founding principles, and not to become followers whoever happens to be leading these parties. To my colleague from, well, I say from Barrigada, who's young enough to be my son, Ondunkulunasi Zeus Masi, for taking the chance at such an early point in your professional life to serve your island, to serve our island. Undunkulu si Zeus Masi for taking the long-standing problems at Simon Sanchez High School, problems you saw firsthand when you attended that Jigo campus and bringing it to these halls. And thank you for being a good example to other young Chamorros out there that it is never too early and also never too late to become fluent in our mother tongue. Hearing someone so young speak so passionately in our language during public hearings and sessions really literally warms my heart. And I truly believe that more and more of our youth are following your noble example, which is critical to keep our language alive. So thank you to my nephew, Senator Roy. To Madam Speaker, I'm going to say this one to our Santa Claus from Hagat. Undunkulu na si Zeus Masi for bringing an unmistakable positivity to this body. I can't count the number of times your smile diffused drama, that your glass half full mentality brought light to a tense situation, and then many of us who were focusing on the negative, you were able to bring back the bright side of things. And finally, to my younger niece from Asan, my beautiful younger niece, or our Sen Nan, as many of us like to call her, Undunkulu Nasitsus Masi for being such a great partner in this body. And as a former legislative secretary myself, I know the mountains of papers and mouthfuls of statements that come with the job. I want to say I appreciate your dedication and your thankless work that comes with this leadership role. But most of all, I want to extend an undunkulu nasitsus masi for your faith and for showing us all that tying our morals and values in our faith should help others, not hurt them. Thank you for showing that we can be inclusive without compromising our religious beliefs. And thank you for always advocating for all God's children. I sincerely hope all 5 of you will find it in your hearts to return to public service in whatever form that may take. I want to share that as someone who's lost re-election bids, I know how hard it can be to rebound, and I personally know how difficult it is to not harden our hearts, to not become scornful about our political process. But let's remember, all of you have that big thing. All of you have that heart to serve others. And let's not forget, all of you have the ability to do so much good. So whether you have unraveled institutional knowledge like Senator Brown, or the ability to find common ground across the aisle like Senator Fisher, or are rooted in our native traditions like Senator Kanata, or brighten any room you walk into like Senator San Nicolas, or are guided by our Heavenly Father God above like Senator Shelton. All of you have traits that are admirable and honorable. So, Madam Speaker, as we close this chapter and enter to a new one, Madam Speaker, I would like to extend an undunkulu nasitsus masi to these honorable lawmakers for their dedication to the people of Guam and wish them the very best in their journeys ahead. Sitsus masi and biba nebunanyu to all the people of Guam and si Juson binidisi hamzu todas sinamasi. God bless each and every one of you.
Vice Speaker Munya Barnes. On brief extension of remarks, is there any other senator who would like to be recognized? Senator Fisher, you are recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your leadership throughout the 37th, and thank you, colleagues, for your service to the people of Guam throughout the 37th. I would also like to extend a heartfelt thanks and my appreciation to the extraordinary professionalism of the legislative staff. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to proceed, and the staff has unerringly been professional, prompt, instructive, and courteous, and I just hope that they all know that that did not go unnoticed, and I thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Senator Fisher. On brief extension of remarks, is there any senator who would like to be recognized? Senator Kanata, you are recognized.
Madam Speaker. Jau by Nai Todu Hamzu and Dunklun as si Jus Masi Paraesti na oportunidad. Sa Sen Magovzu na Usinya na Ufatina Sesti na Tetsu gi Hohobin na Lahi. Sa Mega Otru na oportunidad na Sinya Utogwi lo Ufatina Sesti na eleksyon za enigi na uspia I Tetsohu para na Maulik I Islata, Zani Familata, Itautauta, and Edzuhat Malagoho. Lo utungwa na tiu fatina esti na otru na eleksyon, za gua mas otru na oportunidad, za otru na peta mababa Paraguay, za by togwi edzu. Lo tungwa na guana bay na tisinya hit na ma inafa maulik gwini sa gua influenza huzong za guana bay na tisinya hit ma kwento sa otru na haftu otru na klasentauto za tinecessario puntodo tempo man pareo. Enigi na mas bonito I demokratu na politika. Tiputsi na todo tempo mangwa otru na question debi tagwa debate pun questiona I otru tautau dan contra edzu I mensahi. Za itetota maka sa todo tempo guaha problema. Tisinya na maulik todo I malagota sa megai tautau gini na necesita pontogwi I zonya mission. Da enigi by sota da gua otru peta para guau da masaya hafa malagot mizu dan masaya hafa na hengineng mizu togwi mas malagot mizu. Sa eno ha necesita pontogwi. Sa angin mate hao, tisiyan ang togwi talo. Lo togwi hafa mas maule. Zan diskansa na yun. So, I just stated that this journey has been definitely an honor of mine, and I'm very happy to have taken this journey very much at a young age. And I encourage each and every one of you, no matter how small you feel, how big you feel, and no matter the challenges, if you have a dream and you aspire to be someone or aspire to make a difference in the community, you should pursue it. We also owe it to our island, not because we live here, but we know it to a next generation to ensure that the next generation doesn't inherit those same challenges. Again, when I first ran for office, I was very much inspired by the late Angel Santos that we shouldn't inherit the same challenges by the previous generation, because then we have failed. Also, the late JFK once said that, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And the same sentiment still stands, that ask not what your island can do for you, but what you can do for your island. And there are going to be those people out there who are going to say that there are special interests. But I know that in my own heart, that the only special interest I have ever ran for and the only special interest I ever cared about is the people. The long-standing issues that are still pertaining to our island are still going to be here, but it's going to take the courage and the tenacity of the next generation to fix those challenges. Simon Sanchez is not built, but it still is very much in my mission list to continue. Although I'm not going to be in office anymore, I still will be pursuing the reconstruction and rebuild of Simon Sanchez. And you don't need to be in political office to make a difference. You don't need to wait for the holidays to do good for our people. You don't have to have a title to do good for people. But you just have to keep staying on the high road. No matter how people belittle you, how tough the job is, you just got to stay the high road. And at the end of the day, everything will be better. So I just want to say and give thanks to each and every one of you who have given me this opportunity at a very young age. And again, to the clerks, the legal community, the legal council of our body, and also the many agencies and leadership divisions we've met with, the military partners, congressional representatives. It's very much my honor and my pleasure to have met many of you, and I will continue to work with you guys beyond this office. That is all, Madam Speaker. Again, thank you guys so much. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless Guam.
Masi, Senator Kanata. On brief extension of remarks, is there any other senator who would like to be recognized? Senator Brown, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You know, it's almost 18 years ago. I thought it was my final speech before the Guam Legislature, but I've been privileged by the people of Guam to come back for another 2 terms. I have to say, after serving 8 terms in the Guam Legislature, which first started in 1995, it's indeed, I can say after all these years, it's indeed been the greatest honor of my life in having served our people. You know, I've had the opportunity over the years to work with some really remarkable people in the floor of this legislature to do good things, to improve the quality of life of our people, to ensure accountability in our government, and more importantly, to ensure that our government was working for all of you out there in our community. You know, be it the opportunities that I've been given, I've always been very firm in my beliefs of standing for what I believed in. Sometimes over the years, I've had to stand on this floor by myself. But I've always maintained my convictions to ensure that our government is responsible, our government's transparent, our government's accountable, and that also our leaders ensure integrity and the quality of leadership that they're providing for our people. Ultimately, I want to ensure that the things that bind us, the values that bind us as a community and bind our people are what we should stand for and pursue. You know, having served as the Vice Speaker of the 28th Guam Legislature, over the years as the Chair of the Natural Resource Committee, I've always been a great advocate for our environment, for wanting to ensure that even our business community, that our laws were fair and allowed the opportunity for our businesses to thrive. But also, you know, the things I'm proud of, certainly, that I passed in my previous life was being a very staunch advocate, not just for the environment, but actually putting in place things for the future of our children, like advocating for the marine protected areas that otherwise probably would never have gotten in place, or ensuring that our hydrogeologic survey studies, which have now come over, goodness, 26 years, to ensure that the future of our island, not just now, but in the future and for our future generations, that we can ensure we have safe drinking water quality for our people. Moving forward, I know there's a lot of work still yet to do. I also want to see that maybe my next opportunity and support in this community is to help encourage new and young upcoming leaders, to have them also advocate for the things that are of value, especially transparency and accountability in our government. I ran for office again after all these years for a very specific reason. And I'm least of the bills that I've been able to get passed this term strengthen public notice requirements and put our people literally at the front seat with regards to knowing what actions are being taken on their behalf. And if they don't agree with it, they know what's going on so they can speak out if they don't like the direction that our government is going in, particularly with regards to our public notices of our meetings, that actually now our people know what's being discussed, be it here in the floor of the legislature or boards and commissions. The people of Guam now know. And then the previous law passed many years ago that required the 5-day and 2-day public notice, so our people are aware and our people are informed. We need to ensure that there's these new leaders, and I certainly am an advocate for that. That's something I see as my new mission as well, because I feel very much, Madam Speaker, that in order to ensure that our government is serving our people, we need to have as much transparency in how our government operates. We need to ensure that our leaders are not compromising themselves, not looking out for special interests, but looking out for the interest of our people. And I think the more transparency you put on those issues, the more effective our government will be in serving our people. I'm honored, and I guess I can say, maybe I can borrow, as I've mentioned to Senator San Agustin, as I did when I served with his dad, and I've mentioned before, I guess I can actually say maybe after all these years, I actually am tried and true. I've been through the challenges, and I've had the opportunity and the privilege to serve, and I appreciate the opportunity that our people have given me. And I certainly hope that for the new leadership moving forward, if they're moving in the right direction, doing the right things, I think we will have a promising future for our people. And ultimately, I think that is what we want to see. We want to see a government that's responsible and a government that's accountable, and that those that serve are here to serve our people. Many years ago, the late Speaker Tony Ampinko, who's one of my dear mentors, who I had the opportunity to serve a number of terms, I think 5 altogether, he often called me the conscience of the Guam Legislature. That's a title I am very proud to carry, and I have not changed my position over the years with regards to that, because my priority has always been to ensure that government operates and serves the people. Not just saying it, because it's easy to talk. It's what we do in our actions to be responsible and accountable to our community. And that's why I've been such an advocate for transparency in our government, because unfortunately, the sad reality is corruption exists out there. It exists in our government now, and probably at levels that I think we would be very disappointed, as our public will in due time see, that it's still alive and well in the wrong way. I know our people deserve better. So again, thank you to the people of Guam. Thank you to my colleagues, the many colleagues that I've served with over the years. I know there's a brighter and better future ahead. I hope that we've helped build and strengthen the foundation in our community, and I know there's more work to be done. And as I mentioned earlier, if we have the leaders working in the right direction, doing the right things, I'm sure that there's a much brighter future ahead for our people here. So thank you for the honor of serving. And I certainly look forward to better things happening in the future. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and to all of you for your leadership, and appreciate the opportunity to having served the people of Guam.
Sidusmasi, Senator Brown. On a brief extension of remarks, is there any other senator who would like to be recognized? Senator Perez, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my colleagues and to the people of Guam. Upon reflection upon this term and in advent of the new year, the world is at a perennial crossroads, and also if Guam is seen as a microcosm of this world, then Guam also is. between the escalation of conflicts and the reclamation of our shared humanity. The roots of conflict, differences, disparity, division are not new, but in this modern age, they are amplified and exacerbated by social media and technologies, which too often divide rather than unite. As we reflect on this reality, we must remind ourselves that the power to heal, to resolve, and to build a better future is within our grasp. It is not a distant dream. It is a choice we can make today. When we commit to keeping our minds, our hearts, and the lines of communication open, when we set aside ego and focus on our collective responsibility, we lay the groundwork for long-term positive change. Indigenous values of Inafat Malik, translated as making good, is not the smoothing over of differences, but it involves fact-finding, fairness, debate, transparency, and the willingness to reflect and to accept responsibility, to resolve problems that has the potential to creating lasting positive change. As legislators, we carry a profound responsibility to foster that change. Our decisions shape not only policy, but the trust of the people we serve. We must lead by example, choosing paths that prioritize reconciliation over conflict, inclusion over division, building bridges versus building walls, and sustainability over short-sightedness. But perhaps this may involve sitting with problems before we really come to true solutions. In this new year, let us recommit to the principles of Inafat Malik. Let us resolve to act with courage and humility, to prioritize unity, to ensure that every action we take reflects our duty to the people of Guam and the future we are building together. May the year ahead be one of renewed purpose and an unwavering determination as we strive to uphold the trust of our people and to work towards peace and sustainability. Situs Masi.
Situs Masi, Senator Paris. On brief extension of remarks, is there any other senator who would like to be recognized? Any senator? Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Sidos Masi, Madam Speaker, and buenas noches, of course, to my colleagues and everybody who is tuning in on the YouTube and the TV for this final session of the 37th Guam Legislature. Let me first start by saying, although it is hard to put into words, what an honor it has truly been to serve the people of Guam. When I ran for office, there were many leaders inside this body that I looked up to, and so it was quite an honor to join the ranks of the legislature and see eye to eye with many of my colleagues. Even the colleagues that I didn't necessarily agree with, it was an honor to serve with you. And although we fought, let's not forget what we were fighting for. We were fighting for what we believe was best for our people and our island. And I always tried my best to conduct myself with respect towards all of my colleagues, with the thought that every single one of us were put in here to represent the people of Guam. We just don't always agree on how best to do it. When I ran for office, I committed to serving our people with a focus on two key priorities: improving education for our children and ensuring the safety, security, and justice of our community. And both of these things I did with the center of doing them para ifamagoonta, for our kids. That was my vision. When I ran with a commitment to ignite change, foster opportunity, and challenge the status quo for the betterment of all of our people who call Guam home. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without the support of each and every one of my colleagues in this 37th Guam Legislature. As a father, an advocate, a member of this community, I was proud to stand side by side with you and pass legislation for the betterment of our children. We passed legislation that empowered parents and public school stakeholders to identify health hazards in the schools and to force the Guam Department of Education to correct them with the Safe School Facilities Act. We also mandated annual inspections to ensure ongoing safety. Para ifamagonta. We established together standard operating procedures for quick and efficient responses at our public schools. All of these things, part of our larger mission to improve the quality of education beyond adequate. Again, para ifamagonta. Together, we passed laws that updated sanitation regulations in our schools and ensured that all schools are now equipped with automatic external defibrillators. These life-saving devices contribute directly to a safer, healthier learning environment for all of our kids. I authored and together we passed Public Law 3730, which streamlined the charter school process, promoting innovation and providing educational choices for families across our island, giving our children more opportunities. But of course, colleagues, you know it's not just about the physical structure of our schools. It's also about ensuring accountability, transparency, and integrity from our Guam Department of Education. That's why, with your support, we were able to reinstitute management audits for the Guam Department of Education, ensuring that our schools remain transparent, effective, and accountable to you, the people of Guam. Beyond education, together we have accomplished work deeply rooted in the values of public safety, justice, fairness, and inclusivity. Our communities deserve to feel secure in their homes, and together we work tirelessly to ensure that justice is not just an ideal, but a reality. This belief is reflected in the laws I authored and we passed together to authorize uniformed officers of the Guam Police Department to use body-worn cameras, not just to ensure accountability and transparency for our officers, but also for the public that they interact with. For we need a police force that's not only effective, but one that can be trusted by the community it serves. Public safety, though, goes beyond law enforcement. It includes protecting our most vulnerable residents. Again, I thank you for helping me to champion Public Law 3798, which established stricter sentencing for heinous crimes against our children. When a child is harmed, we must make sure that those who commit such heinous acts are held accountable and that those penalties reflect the seriousness of these offenses. And we must do it para ifamagonta. Additionally, together we passed Public Law 37-113, which enforces stricter penalties for drug trafficking, specifically targeting those who seek to poison our island with crystal methamphetamine and fentanyl. This law also eliminates leniency for first-time offenders. Our island has faced the devastating effects of the methamphetamine epidemic, which has now expanded to include fentanyl and opioids. Through this law, together, we took a strong stand to say enough is enough to those who push poison on our island and our people. There's one area of our community, though, that still urgently needs our attention, and that's the area of healthcare. We all agree that Guam needs a new hospital, but this, again, is not just about a building. It's about ensuring that every person who calls this island home has access to the health care they need and deserve. The governor agrees and has publicly acknowledged this need. But when it came time for action to build the hospital, her efforts fell short because somewhere along the road to building a new hospital for our people, the governor has prioritized the location of the hospital over the building of the hospital. Colleagues, we know that we need more than just promises. We need results. And 8 members of the 37th Guam Legislature identified a location to build a new hospital, but the governor said no. She said no because it is what it is. And although we've asked to be seated at the same table, we've asked for details, we've asked to work collaboratively, those requests have fallen on the governor's deaf ears. Too often, politics and personal agendas get in the way of progress. This has been, unfortunately, one of the great disappointments of my short time in public service, realizing that far too often, the choices we make in this hallowed hall are not based on what our people truly need, but they're based on the personal and political interests of a select few. That's the reality I faced in my first term as a public servant, where I moved from behind the microphone and the camera, where it's easy to speak about change, and into the heart of public service, where real change happens. And I have to tell you, my dear people of Guam, change can happen. Change is possible, but we have to fight for it. And I remain committed to fighting for you. I don't fight for a party. I don't fight for politics. I don't fight for a governor. I fight for Guam. And colleagues, while together we have made strides in education and public safety, we know that our work is far from over, for there are still many challenges on the road ahead, from building a new hospital to improving infrastructure to providing quality services for every person on this island. And I am committed to continue this journey with you, together as your senator. Our community deserves leaders who will put aside personalities, politics, and work relentlessly for the betterment of all. I'll always be dedicated to serving with that commitment in mind. And so with that, my dear people of Guam, I wish you a happy new year. And I know some people say new year, new me, but you're going to get the same Chris Malafunction Barnett fighting for the people of Guam in the 38th Guam Legislature. And I really hope it is a new year. And for our returning colleagues and the new members of the incoming legislature, don't forget that the people have spoken very clearly in this election. They have said they want the Guam legislature to be a check and balance for the people of Guam. And so I truly pray for a happy new year with new values, new cooperation, new collaboration. And to borrow a phrase from my good friend Senator Taitagui, I hope it's not a new year with the same old shenanigans. So happy new year, dear people of Guam. And you know, in our custom, what do we do in the new year? We clean up our house and we get ready for what's to come. And the voters have cleaned up this house, and we stand ready to serve in the 38th Guam Legislature. Thank you so much, colleagues, for the experience and the guidance and the collaboration you have provided. Learned so much in this first term, and I'm very grateful to each and every one of you, and most especially to our people of Guam. Sidus Masi, Madam Speaker, and Happy New Year.
Sidus Masi, Senator Barnett. On brief extension of remarks, is there any other senator who would like to be recognized? If not, I can ask. Remarks. Senator Shelton, Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Sidus Masi, Madam Speaker, and colleagues, and as the final session of the 37th Guam Legislature comes to an end, I can't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude. In the last 2 years, we've all worked to represent the people of Guam and work toward creating a better and a brighter future for our island, each of us individually and together as a body. I'm truly honored to have had the opportunity to serve as a senator for 3 terms. I arrived here with an agenda that represented the collective aspirations and hopes of our island and our people as seen through the then freshman eyes of the youngest woman ever elected to this body. I particularly made it my mission to address immediate needs and be a voice for the vulnerable among us: children, youth, our manamku, the disabled, especially, all things that people said were unrelatable and unelectable platforms. But together we established the Elder Justice Center to provide legal services to our senior citizens, impaneled a Senior Citizens Housing Task Force. We worked with the Guam Youth Congress to pass the Period Poverty Act, which gives all our public school students across the island free period products if needed. 100% renewable energy for Guam and our future generations. The SERVE Act to increase resources for Guam's veterans. And we passed long-delayed increases in government retiree COLA. We also looked to the future and laid the foundation for long-term sustainability in areas of renewable energy, the environment, and higher education. We work to make sure, as the world around us changes, our island is more connected to people and ideas that will help us to be more resilient in the 21st century. We did all this in the face of a global pandemic and the need for the largest expansion of military force readiness on our island since World War II. I'm grateful to have served with dedicated public servants, both in this body and at agencies throughout the government of Guam, who have faithfully devoted their lives to serving our people. It's been an honor to work with you all as a member of this body, and I look forward to continuing to be a force for positive change on our island for years to come. To my team, the Shelton for Guam team, everyone who has helped me in service to the people of Guam, thank you for being by my side. Thank you for believing in me and sharing the vision. To my family, thank you for your unfaltering love, support, and faith in me. My father, who inspired me, along with my mother, who transmitted their faith and values, to be my guiding light, to serve honorably in this body. And my beloved uncle, my second dad, that we lost just a few months ago, who has been my strength and #1 supporter since I decided to enter the world of politics. And most especially, I give thanks to the Almighty God for allowing me the honor of serving our island. I thank Him for every trial and every grace, and for all those on our island who are suffering. I pray that God may bless them and may continue, wherever God leads us, to keep working for them and for the glory of God. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Siduas Masi, hu guaidza hau toru. Siduas infen benedici islan gohan. Thank you.
Situs Masi, Senator Shelton. Is there any other senator on brief extension of remarks?
Speaker Therese, on extension of remarks, you are acknowledged.
Situs Masi, Vice Speaker, and my colleagues, and I want to thank all of you for serving with me, for the sacrifices that you've made to enter this realm of public service, the sacrifices that your families have made for you to do this work. I have been humbled by the overwhelming support from voters in the face of sometimes sharp and loud criticism, and sometimes from a select few. And I thank the people of Guam for acknowledging that we may all have different opinions, but it matters if we fight for them versus catering only to special interests, that we look at reasonable and direct ways to alleviate their cost of living, like relief from real property taxes, business privilege taxes, fuel taxes, and power credits. I thank the people of Guam for affirming the need to improve health care now and actually vet the facts surrounding the location of our new hospital and our billion-dollar investment. And for affirming that we should be independent as a branch to hold government agencies accountable to the missions and needs of the people that these agencies were created to serve. Yet, to grant these agencies swift and large ability to respond to typhoons, to the conditions of our schools, to the hospital, and other crises that our community faces. In an unprecedented way, despite our differences, we as a legislature have fostered bipartisanship and committee work in considering bills on their merits and benefits instead of politics. And we should have been reminded in the last election that it is our job to listen by getting out there in the community face to face and taking the time to hear our people's concerns, to listen by attending public hearings and hearing those who have taken great effort to submit testimony, to listen by hearing each other in a debate and conveying to the people of Guam through our debate what facts or million-dollar studies have determined our position on a bill, or were we swayed by criteria or opinions that cannot be disclosed? As a legislature and as individuals, we fail by voting to end debate on controversial topics, to hide behind silence and refuse to hear facts being laid out by others. Yet in the face of what seems like an administration with little regard for transparency or consensus on some issues, this legislature has fostered transparency and accountability by requiring more detailed notices, transcripts, reports, and broadcasts, and conducting multiple hearings on controversial bills, like the hospital location, an unprecedented amount of oversight hearings, including those on the current hospital, public health, Chamorro Land Trust, the Department of Education, and moved forward CLTC infrastructure and leases and environmental stewardship to where we should have been years ago. And in transparency and cooperation, we have scheduled session at the beginning of the term for the last week of almost every month, and stuck to that schedule as much as we could, and spent an entire month for budget, assigned all the days in between for the hard work of public hearings. And we have a couple of colleagues, and I really just want to also commend them for their diligence, because they, Senator Brown, Senator Taitukui, have attended almost every hearing and every session that we have held. In addition, We've had emergency session. We've had to call emergency session to expedite typhoon recovery, alleviate our mayors from the stress of being on the front line without resources and other urgent needs. And through our budgets and debate, we have ensured surplus for several years now, ensured elimination of the deficit, ensured expansion of drug treatment and recovery, ensured shelters for children in need, focused on law enforcement and the building of law enforcement capacity, and the building of teachers and nurse capacities, critical needs of our community. And we have publicly prioritized the use of excess revenues for direct aid and benefit to the people of Guam, instead of unaccounted and uncontrolled spending by one branch alone. My colleagues, despite any differences that we might have, they have valuable insights. And I recognize this in my inauguration remarks, that they were all coming in with different promises, different experience in the public and the private sector, some with experience in previous legislatures. We had a full slate of work ahead of us and a lot of hope. And I commend them for their fresh ideas and commitment to serving our people. And they have made an impact. Every single one. Every single person in the public who's testified on a bill has made an impact. Every written submission, every phone call. And I encourage the people and the public to continue to do that. Demand that you be heard. My colleagues, again, I thank you for representing diverse sectors of our island as a legislature should do. Not just one class of people, one favorite party, but the diverse community that is Guam. And for that, you have my deepest gratitude. And I also want to commend my appreciation as Speaker to our central staff at the legislature for their hard work and dedication. They have, including our clerks, brought our legislative journals and other reports up to date from previous terms. They've, including our Sergeant of Arms and our council, our CFO, our director, all of them and all of their teams, our protocol officer, allowed us to really serve the people of Guam by putting on our state funerals, the public addresses by our elected leaders, and that's all hard work. And for letting our legislative, the number one work is this session, and to let our sessions and the bills work that we have to do prevail. And I want to thank my staff for their hard work and the efforts that they've made, and I hope they are also feeling like I feel the joy of serving the people of Guam. They've been instrumental in this in the late hours, in the numerous committee reports, more than any other. The number of bills that we've been able to pass, 29 this term. And that's from hard work, from making sure that it's tough. They suffer as all public servants suffer. The criticism, the long hours, the overtime that's necessary to get this stuff done under deadlines, and the sacrifices that they make with their family. And so I'm very grateful. And I'm grateful to the people of Guam for their trust and confidence, not just in this term, but in my previous terms, for continuing to motivate me and remind me that I am only as effective as the community behind me, uplifting and supporting the work that we do. And there's a saying that one of my classmates reminded me of this weekend, and it is, everything you ever wanted is on the other side of fear. And I was never a super brave or courageous person, but I have learned from this job that serving the people of Guam, ensuring their quality of life, bettering in any way, that is my other side of fear. And I am willing to continue to work hard, and I work cooperatively, and I really do have hope for the next term that we will continue to strive together as a legislature to bring justice to the people of Guam through greater accountability, transparency, service, by engaging the public and each other, and to continuing to listen and hear what the people of Guam are telling us. And I want to thank again my colleagues, and I really very much miss those who are not returning. It has been my honor to serve with you. And it's been my honor, and I want to thank all of you, it's been my honor to serve as your speaker for this term and the previous term. And I look forward again to continuing the work in other capacity. And Sidus Maasi again to the people of Guam.
Anyone else wishing to speak on extension of remarks?
If there's no one else on brief extension of remarks, I have a brief announcement, and that would be that our inauguration, according to the next inauguration of the 38th Guam Legislature, according to the Organic Act, will be on January 6th at 10 a.m. And the inaugural Mass will be on January 5th at 9:30 a.m. at the Agana Cathedral. Are there any other announcements? If not, Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I move to adjourn today's session, subject to the call of the Speaker.
On the motion to adjourn, subject to the call of the Speaker, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, we are adjourned, subject to the call of the Speaker or until we adjourn sine die on January 6th. We are hereby adjourned.